So, let's start. For this presentation, discuss natin yung definition ni Earth observation. We'll also discuss about remote sensing process, energy matter interaction, and satellite systems. So, mostly, you're already familiar with GIS based on your pre-training assessment, but almost everyone is not yet familiar with EO. So hopefully you will learn the key information about Earth observation after this lecture, no? So again, we'll discuss these particular subtopics. Okay? As mentioned, we are already using Google Earth, Google Maps for navigation to just a visual interpretation of some resources in the locality or SUCs. We are familiar with some available online platforms like Google Maps. However, as mentioned earlier, with more advanced learning, you can even generate like vegetation indices. For example, here, you can easily differentiate, okay, the green or vegetation area or vegetated area out of this particular RGB data. Okay? So for specific functions like vegetation monitoring, this will be very useful to learn. Okay? So this is part of EO. Earth observation is the practice of gathering information about our planet's physical, chemical, and biological system. So simple observation lang siya ng Earth. Okay? Specifically, the physical, chemical, and biological system. However, it's important to note that we are using technologies to observe the Earth. Okay? Kasi wala siya dito, nasa space siya. Kasi malayo yung ating ino-observe. So we're using remote sensing technologies supplemented by Earth surveying techniques. So this is the simple explanation or description of observing Earth from above. So it will include the use of satellite data, remote sensing, or satellite-based remote sensing, then complemented by some ground-based data processing, okay, to validate and also to process the data na collected by our satellites. Okay? Again, Earth observation is the process of observing Earth from above, specifically these particular elements or systems. Okay? As mentioned by Pilsa, we have two types of levels for Earth observation. We have upstream and downstream. So yung NASA, for example, and ESA, mostly sikat sila for the upstream. Sila yung develop ng mga satellites, development and launch of satellites. Yung mga infrastructures na dinadeploy sa ating space. Yun yung upstream. Okay? So clue na lang yung up, nasa taas sila. Yun. Yung downstream naman, this is how we make data useful. It will include processing the data collected by our infrastructures or satellite data. Okay? Downstream, this is where satellite data is transformed from your satellite-derived satellite structures until that it will reach your user or our community, especially for local applications. Okay? Ito yung useful sa LGUs. So we process and generate maps, applications, and some dashboard. Again, pareha sila importante. So without this particular backbone, which is your satellite systems, you cannot create useful maps. Okay? So currently, we have a lot of EO satellites. Pero mas marami pa rin yung ating mga communication satellites. Okay? But Earth observation, the second on the list, are Earth observation satellites. Then we have different groups pushing the use of Earth space data or space data, including yung group on Earth observations or GEO. This is an intergovernmental partnership of 100 plus government and participating organization. Involved dito yung EU, okay, European Union, through its specific Earth observation program called the Copernicus program. Okay? Again, Copernicus program is the Earth observation component of European Union. Okay? Copernicus yung tawag natin sa program na yon. Okay? Kanino siya pinangalan? Kay Nicolaus Copernicus. Okay? So again, review natin because this is a very important term in our training. You will always hear about Copernicus. Copernicus is the Earth observation component of the EU space program. Siya yung EO component natin. And it provides 6 services, okay? Including the usage of satellite for marine monitoring, climate change monitoring, adaptation, etc. So ito yung 6 services natin. Okay? Again, that's Copernicus program. Okay? Under the Copernicus program, there are many satellite data, okay, to complement and also to provide the services provided by the Copernicus and EU. Okay? So karamihan ng satellite will be discussed naman later. Okay? Yung mga Sentinel-2 data, Sentinel-1 data. At ano yung differences between the sensors. Okay? Again, that's part of the Copernicus program. Meron din tayong mga field sensors, mga nasa ocean sensors, soil sensors, to complement and validate some space-acquired data. Okay? Again, Earth observation is the process of observing the Earth from above using satellite-based remote sensing. Okay? So, you heard the term remote sensing. Okay? Ginagamit natin sa remote sensing in the process of observing the Earth. But do you have any idea about remote sensing? So, anyone who have heard previously the term remote sensing? Meron? Parang smile si mama. Sige, yung hindi nila alam. So, we have the term remote sensing. So, ano nga ba yung remote sensing? What is remote sensing? And ano yung significance niya in the process of observing the Earth? So, kunwari, we are now in the kitchen. Okay? So, eyes on the word. So, in the kitchen, we are boiling two separate pans. Okay? Pwede yung isa nauna, and the second one was boiled after the other. So, looking at these images, which one do you think is the hotter or warmer one? A or B? A. Yan. Confidence sabi. A. Yan. Yan. A. Why? Paano nasabing A? Ano yung clue? So based on our previous information, we know that if there's some vapor and also water vapor and boiling, it's hotter. Okay? So to know that information, do you need to touch the pan or slide? No? No need, no? So in that process, you were able to collect information without touching the object. Okay? You collected the data remotely, okay? With a distance, or in a distance. That's why it's called remote sensing. Okay? Another example is when we capture photos using camera. So yung object natin, for example, is a mountain. Do you need to go to the mountain if kaya naman siyang maabot? Hindi na, no? But in this particular example, sa first example, anong sensor yung ginamit mo with the pan example? Optical, ay eyes. Tama? With the pictures, ano yung sensor? The camera sensors. Tama? So, basically, remote sensing is the process of collecting information from a distance, of course, with a sensor. Kailangan may sensor tayo. Okay? However, in the context of Earth observation, let's expand the definition a little bit more. Okay? So, in the context of EO, remote sensing is the science of acquiring information about the Earth's surface remotely or without direct contact using sensors that detect reflected or emitted electromagnetic radiation. Okay? So in EO, ang ino-observe natin hindi kawali, hindi kaserola, but yung Earth mismo. And we are using sensors, not our eyes, not our camera sensors, but special sensors na carried by our satellites. Okay? Why special? Because these sensors can collect information outside yung RGB, no? Yung visible range natin. Kahit infrared yan, kahit mga shortwave infrared yan, and other mga thermal energies, there are sensors, specialized sensors that can collect that information. Okay? Kaya specialized yung sensor in the context of EO. Okay? So ano yung brief history of remote sensing? It started with photography. Okay? As mentioned, photography is an example of remote sensing. So it started with Daguerre. Okay? Siya ay isang French painter and physicist who invented the first practical process of photography known as the daguerreotype, using metal plate as yung source of kanyang images. So ito yung sample, one of the known examples of his output or photograph, okay, taken while he is in his balcony or room. Okay? Nakita natin, parang nasa front siya, no? Front niya yung kanyang pinicturean. However, in 1840s, okay, there's a person named, tawag dito, Tornasol, okay? He is a balloon hobbyist, at the same time a photographer and journalist, okay? He started taking photos of the ground while riding a balloon, okay? So, ang makita natin, hindi na yung nasa front niya, but yung nasa ilalim, okay? So, in a way, he's observing the ground since he is elevated. Kaya naman, another term for the word bird's eye view ay nadir view. So NADAR yung palayaw ni Tornacion, si NADAR Tornacion. So yun yung start ng taking photos of the ground from above, starting with a balloon photography. Okay, from NADAR. Okay, another application after that is the application of aerial photography during the World War. Okay, then followed by civil applications in 1956. Oh, hindi na siya to monitor yung mga war or yung mga base ng mga kalaban or during the World War II, but more on applications in agriculture like monitoring the crops. So nag-start na siya to be applied in actual civil applications. So for now, ginagamit natin yan. For example, the USTSRI, we are monitoring our specific provincial crops or crops in the province to better manage or adapt these particular tools. So the term remote sensing was first used in US. Ito siya, si Miss Evelyn Pruitt of the US Office of Naval Research. Okay? In 1960, so 1950s yun, in 1960, nag-establish yung NASA ng program to support remote sensing, 1960. And in 1972, if you are familiar with Landsat series, so parang iPhone series lang yun, no? Meron siyang, I think, Landsat 9 na ngayon. Pero yung start niya, of course, Landsat 1, 1972 pa siya. Siya yung another common example of satellite data before the Sentinel-2 or Copernicus program. So ito talaga yung kanilang mga lolo ng mga satellite data. This is Landsat 1, especially for optical remote sensing. In the ESA naman, or European Space Agency, it was created 1975. Okay? Then in 1991, they launched the first European remote sensing satellite, yung ERS-1. Okay? It's the first dedicated remote sensing satellite for monitoring ocean, land surface, and polar ice. Okay? These are examples of some heritage missions under the ESA. So let's proceed with some platforms being utilized in remote sensing. Okay, we have three types of common platforms. We have spaceborne. Of course, those are satellite-based. Then we have airborne. Ito yung mga drones or mga sensors attached to our mga aircraft. So nasa, ano pa rin siya, nasa, wala pa siya sa space. So airborne lang siya. We also have ground-based. Okay? Ground-based siya, pero still no contact sensors. For example, scanning yung mga terrestrial scanners natin, no? Scanning the environment with no contact, but still, nasa ground siya. Kaya ground-based pa rin siya. Okay? Again, we have spaceborne, airborne, and ground-based. The selection of that particular platform will depend on your particular usage or use case siya. Okay? So, they have some advantages and over the others or other platforms, no? For example, with satellite-based, okay, since it's positioned in a higher altitude elevation, usually it can cover a wide coverage, no? Since nasa space siya. Okay? However, common for satellite data, they have just coarse resolution, not that centimeter level that can be provided by some drones. Si drone naman, it can provide you higher resolution data. However, it can only cover a very small coverage per flight. Okay? And of course, it is also expensive. Okay? So, alam niyo yung mga photographers natin dito. Okay? So, in between, we have here the airborne. So, in between siya, but still costly pa rin siya, no? So, for example, in mapping, for example, our forest, we can use either the drone if you want high resolution data, centimeter level. You can use mga LiDAR. For example, you want to have elevation models, you should use those types of data sets. But if you just want to monitor it, like historical mapping and also, tawag dito, multi-temporal analysis, we can use the satellite data. Since we have some free and open source na satellite data like Sentinel series or Sentinel ecosystem satellites. Okay? Again, the platform will depend on your end application. Okay? What information do you want? How much detail yung kailangan mo? And how frequently do you need this data? If you are going to use drone, dapat paliparan mo siya lagi. So that's costly. That's way costly. Is compared on satellite na usually meron na siyang return period talaga. Okay? It's depending on the satellite. Ang tawag doon ay temporal resolution. So may discussion tayo later about the different types of resolution. Okay, this slide may look like complicated, so I will try my best to explain this one. Okay? So this one describe the remote sensing process. So ano nga bang nangyari paano tayo nakapagkuha ng mga images ng ating mga resources? Okay? Ano yung nangyayari sa background? Okay? So, for usual or for common remote sensing process, especially yung mga passive system, yung source of energy natin ay sun. Okay? So, yung solar energy natin from the sun, okay, before it reach the ground, of course, tatamaan niya yung ibang clouds. Okay? Some of those energy will be absorbed or reflected by the clouds. Then, it will be captured by your satellite. Okay? So, it will record the cloud reflected energy here in this particular area. So, cloudy makita mo. Tama? However, most of those naman na energy will reach your ground surface. Okay? For example, it will reach the ground, it will interact with some vegetation, for example. Then, based on that properties of vegetation, it will be reflected pabalik doon sa sensor. The sensor will record the energy reflected back, okay, to the atmosphere after hitting your object. Nagets po ba? Okay? Parang ano lang po siya, kukunin niya yung reflected energy from the solar radiation. Okay? Dito yung source of energy, i-capture niya. So, pinapakita lang dito na some of the energy will not be reflected back to the sensor. Some will be absorbed by the clouds, some will be absorbed by the ground, and will be later emitted as heat or infrared energy. So yun lang yung pinapakita with this one. And this is what we call the energy-matter interaction. Okay po? So in that process, kung same lang pala yung method ng pagkuha ni camera, ni sensor or satellite sensors ng reflected energy, paano natin nahihiwala yung dahon sa water? Paano natin nahihiwala yung build-up sa bare soil? Kung same lang naman pala sila ng process, okay? Same lang pala sila ng process here. So solar energy hitting the ground and energy reflected back to the satellite or captured by the satellite sensor. Okay? So the differences will depend on the properties of your object or materials sa ground. Tama? For example, if the energy hit a water area, most of the energy will be absorbed. Okay? So, konting-konti na lang yung energy na ma-reflect. Kaya mostly, sa satellite data, black yung water. Okay, gets? Kasi, most of the water, based on the properties, most of the reflected energy based on the properties of water will be absorbed. Once the energy naman hits some vegetation area, it will absorb some of the spectrum, energy in some spectrum like RGB, and it will reflect near infrared, mostly, doon, yun yung capture ng ating sensors. Okay? Again, it will differ based on the properties of your object on the ground. Okay? So, ano yung mga properties na yun? Here, surface brightness, color, moisture content, texture and roughness, and material composition. So, later, makita natin yung example na spectral profile kapag dahon or vegetation tinamaan natin. Okay po. So ito lang yung pinapakita yung previous examples on the different interactions. Again, it can be reflected. Some will be absorbed. And later, pwedeng ibalik sa atmosphere through infrared or thermal energy. And some will be some will undergo the process of transmission, like yung from dahon papunta doon sa roots. Ayan na naman sa electromagnetic spectrum, yung ating hate sa physics class. So, pinapakita ko lang siya to define or to illustrate na yung spectral profile natin, yung reaction natin when it hit the object, it will vary within your spectrum. For example, as mentioned, yung vegetation, mataas yung absorption sa RGP, pero mababa yung absorption ng NIR. So meaning, dito sa RGB, okay, your reflected energy is low, but when it comes to NIR, tataas na siya dito. Okay? So makita natin yung spectral profile ng vegetation depending on the range ng spectrum na makita yung mga reactions na yun. Okay? So this is also important in selecting the bands. For example, if you want to study water or to capture properties of water or areas with water like ponds or lakes, if you are knowledgeable with the spectrum, you will also be guided if which bands or satellite bands are you using, okay, to observe certain vegetation or certain features. Okay? So, ayan, pakita ko lang din to. So, this is your usual spectrum, no? So going to the left, you have the longer wavelength, lower frequency. Going to the right, you have here the shorter wavelength, okay? Higher frequency and more energetic. So dito yung RGB natin or visible light natin. So proceed tayo with another subtopic which is the satellite systems. Ito naman yung types of satellite by orbit, meaning how high sila nakaka-capture ng data. Yung altitude nila doon sa space natin. Okay? We have low Earth orbit satellites or LEO. Okay? These are example of Copernicus satellites. On that particular orbit, we have Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, 3, and 5P. Okay? We have, since those are located sa lower Earth orbit, usually they provide higher resolution images. Okay? Meanwhile, sa medium Earth orbit, we have no example Sentinel or Copernicus satellites for that. It's approximately located between 2,000 to 35 kilometers above Earth. Okay? So mainly for navigation and communication purposes. Then lastly, we have geostationary orbit or GEO. Okay? Ito naman yung nasa taas na talaga, 35,000 kilometers. So this is a usual satellite for monitoring weather patterns and air quality. So we have here Sentinel-4, but this is exclusive only for the Europe area. Okay? So I think last subtopics will be about satellite systems. We have types of satellite by energy source. We have two types, passive and active. Madali lang naman ito tandaan. This is a common example or classification of satellites based on the source of energy. When a satellite is passive, it depends on natural energy, usually the sun. Okay, passive lang siya. So hindi siya gumagawa ng sariling mga pulses niya or microwave, okay? So nakadepende lang siya sa natural energy. Example of this one is our Sentinel-2 and Landsat. Okay? On the other hand, active satellites naman yung tawag kapag nagtatransmit siya ng own energy. Okay? For example, LiDAR. Okay? It transmit mga light pulses. Okay? Then sa SAR naman, mga synthetic, mga radar satellites naman, they transmit naman ng mga microwave energy. Okay? Example of this one is Sentinel-1 for SAR and ISAT-2 for LiDAR. So review lang po, passive. Okay? It depends on solar energy. Active satellite, they emit or transmit their own energy. Okay, so baka lumabas yun sa exam. So, magandang tandaan yan, no? Passive versus active satellite. Okay. Okay, so this is optical versus SAR. So, sa passive satellite, usually optical sila. Okay, like Sentinel-2. Okay? Pag sinabi natin optical, energy source is sunlight. So, effective siya for visualizing or analyzing land cover, vegetation, and however, it is limited by cloud cover. So pag optical, ito yung nakikita natin na parang mga pictures lang, no? Like yung Earth, Google Maps, Google Earth. So those are optical. So at first glance, you can easily differentiate yung vegetation from the water kasi you can see like true color niya. That's optical. And another clue, pag may clouds, that's optical because limitation niya yung cloud cover. Kasi nga, optical siya, it will depend on the reflected light, di ba? Pag it hits clouds, ang ma-record niya ay clouds. So yun yung limit whenever there's, for example, typhoon. So at least 1 week after typhoon, usually cloudy pa. So wala tayong makuha clear images. So yun yung limitations. Again, we can use SAR data to supplement optical data. Okay? But in terms of pricing, pinakamadali yung optical. Okay? Mga like derivation of indices, vegetation indices, we usually use optical data for that. On the other hand, for active satellites, we can further divide this into two types. We have SAR and LiDAR. Okay? So those are active satellites. So SAR, synthetic aperture radar, microwave yung ginagamit ng energy. Okay? Aperture radar, like Sentinel-1, it utilizes microwave pulses. So useful siya for surface deformation, flood mapping, gagamitin natin siya for flood mapping, Sentinel-1, and also for landslide mapping. So helpful doon yung ating SAR data like Sentinel-1. Example of optical is Sentinel-2. Sa LiDAR naman, the difference here, they use their own laser pulses. So light detection naman siya. Okay, kaya laser pulses ang ginagamit. This is very useful for elevation, forest height mapping, terrain mapping. So, yung cons nito, it's usually costly. So, sa Pilipinas, we have the PLiDAR program. If you have the PLiDAR by DOST and UP. So, PLiDAR, nagpalipad siya ng LiDAR survey sa buong Pilipinas, especially sa mga larger river systems sa Pilipinas. So, you can access that data online. So, available na siya yung mga LiDAR products from the PLiDAR program. And I think partner din yung mga universities locally with that project. So, ito na yung, I think, pinakalas talaga. So, we have different types of resolution. Okay? So, madali lang naman tandaan, these are the three main types or common types of resolution in studying remote sensing, especially in using satellite data. Meron tayong tinatawag na spatial resolution, temporal resolution, and spectral. Actually, on their names, you can have an idea of what they're actually referring to. Okay? So, let's start with spatial resolution. So, it refers to the smallest spatial measurement of that particular satellite data. So, di ba sa mga cellphones natin, earphones, meron tayong 12 megapixel, 50 megapixel. So, those are actually example of spatial resolution. So, when you zoom into the particular area, yung pinaka pwede lang i-zoom, yun yung kanyang pixel size. Tama? So, that's spatial resolution, the smallest unit of an image. Okay? This is common, of course, for raster. Sa vector kasi, if you zoom it, wala naman siya kasi line siya, hindi siya continuous. Okay? So, raster lang siya like satellite data. Okay? Again, that's spatial resolution. We're talking about the smallest unit. Alright? So, why do we need to consider the spatial resolution in choosing an imagery or satellite? Kasi the level of analysis will also depend on your spatial resolution. For example, this one is a 30-meter resolution image, okay, versus 15-meter versus 1 meter. Okay? At a certain level, medyo nahihirapan tayong to visualize certain data or features if masyado ng coarse yung resolution. However, there are usually trade-off. Usually, mga meter level, centimeter level are proprietary or may bayad na mga satellite. Okay? So, doon lang tayo sa 10 to 30. So, 10 meter, we have Copernicus satellite, like Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2. Then, for 30 meters, we have Landsat, which is yung lolo ng ating satellite data. Another example to visualize that, we have here some seagrass maps. Okay? You can see the difference at first glance, no? This is a drone data of seagrass area. This world view. This one, 4 centimeter, no? World view 2 is 50 centimeter planet data or planet scope. This is 3 meters. Sentinel-2, this is 10 meter. Landsat, this is 30 meter. Okay? Until what level nakita niyo yung seagrass? Until what? Planet? Sentinel-2, no? So sa drone, obviously, you can easily visualize the location of the seagrass areas here versus the other surrounding water areas, maybe deep seagrass or deep corals, okay? But here, for example, Sentinel-2, it's still visible. You can see the difference in the pixel level or pixel color. Sa Landsat, pwedeng mahirap na, no? Without any further idea that that's actually a seagrass location, it's hard to determine that's actually a seagrass area. So this figure shows how important it is to consider spatial resolution when choosing a satellite data to use. Okay? So that's spatial resolution. Smallest spatial measurement. Okay? The second one is yung temporal resolution. So tempo means time. Tama? So temporal resolution, frequency of measurement. Okay? So how often data is captured over the same area. So for example, Sentinel-2 data, kinakapture yung Cebu ngayon. Ilang araw siya babalik sa Cebu para makapture yung same area. That's the temporal resolution. For example, 3 days or 5 days. It's temporal resolution. Okay? So, ano yung importance ng temporal resolution? For example, you want to monitor yung growth ng vegetation. Okay? If you have 2 days temporal resolution, you have image per 2 days. Okay? You can monitor the progress every 2 days. If you have high level or high resolution, high temporal resolution. However, if your temporal resolution is 14 days, right, or 16 days, you only have 2 images, day 0 and day 16. Okay? So you have no idea what really happened between those particular images. So, importante na we have higher resolution. Again, it will depend on your use cases. Usually, pag, for example, per crop monitoring, pwedeng weekly, pwedeng monthly. Again, nakadepende sa use cases natin kung gaano kaganda yung kailangan natin na temporal resolution. Okay po. So review tayo. Spatial is on the pixel. Temporal is yung return period natin or frequency of measurement. So again, another example in studying the crops, phenology of crops, usually, temporal resolution should be good. For example, monthly observation is required to fully study or analyze your trend. Okay? Saan yung mataas yung vegetation, like through NDVI. So these are the common satellites, okay? Especially those Copernicus satellites, and the corresponding temporal resolution. So we have Sentinel-2 5 days previously, but now we have Sentinel-2 CND. It's now 3 to 5 days, depending on the position on the equator. Then we have Sentinel-1 every 6 days, Sentinel-3 daily, okay, and so on. We have Landsat every 16 days. MODIS is daily, 1 to 2 days for other data sets. Okay? Planet, they have nearly daily or using multiple satellites. Lastly, we have spectral resolution. Ano yung clue naman dito? Spectral or spectrum. Okay? So it refers to the number of independent channels that can be recorded by your sensor. Okay? Gaano kadami yung bands? Ganun siya kadali. Gaano kadami yung bands na meron sa satellite data? That's its spectral resolution. Okay? So spectral resolution describe a sensor to separate different wavelength. Okay? So more bands, better ability. So ano yung difference? What the difference between black and white film versus color film? Okay? So black and white film, okay, in the range of 0.4 micrometer to 0.7, it cannot differentiate the wavelength inside or between those particular range. So it can only record this one as one band. Kaya siya black and white. Okay? However, for color film, it uses some sensors that can capture or can separate the blue, the green, and the red bands. Therefore, it can be visualized as colored data or colored photo. So yun yung difference. So mas madami, mas maganda kasi mas madaling i-analyze yung data. That's yung spectral resolution. Okay? So spatial, temporal, and spectral. Gano'n kadami yung independent na bands. So these are the spectral resolution of the Sentinel-2 satellites. Sentinel-2, we have 13 bands. Meron siyang RGB, near-infrared, shortwave infrared, and some ano pa ba? May other bands siya for clouds and also for ocean blue. Okay? Ito naman yung Sentinel-3, etc., etc. Another example showing the differences using the 3 resolution. So we have here some commercial satellites. So this is, for example, PlanetScope. Okay? So PlanetScope, spatial resolution is 3.7, temporal is sub-daily, and spectral is 8 bands. Okay? Another example, WorldView 3. Okay? Spatial is 0.31 meters, temporal resolution is daily, and spectral resolution is also 8 bands. So yun yung sample lang to illustrate that three resolutions, these 3 types of resolutions are actually important to be considered in selecting the best or the suitable satellite for our specific uses. So for the last parts of this slide, we'll talk about why remote sensing matters for LGUs. So alam na natin yung mga technical. So yun lang naman, technical properties. So imagine, usually po for GIS, 1 course yun, isang SEM yun. And also for remote sensing, that's also 1 SEM. So what we have presented to you are actually the main or the summary key informations, foundations lang naman muna na kailangan malaman natin because again, that's semester level yung lectures natin dapat hindi siya kaya for these types of training. So we're giving you the foundation and the key informations required, especially in applications for LGU or local applications. Okay? Again, we will have some exercises to further improve our application and knowledge about these particular theories. So why remote sensing matters? Number 1, we can see the bigger picture. Okay? So we can monitor land, water, and forest areas across entire municipalities or provinces. Okay? Second one, we can track changes over time. For example, after typhoon, okay, we want to do a rapid assessment of the damaged area. we can use satellite data as long as it's available. Okay? Pwede namang pumunta, pipicturean mo isa-isa, pero it will be costly, it will be time consuming, no? If you will take a pictures, pupunta ka sa barangay 1, barangay 2. But if you want rapid assessment, you can use satellite data. Okay? An example to illustrate that one, this is a sample satellite data, WorldView data 2019. Okay? This is up before Typhoon Odette. Okay? Then this one shows the ComSat data after Typhoon Odette. So zooming in, if hindi clear, there we can see here the damages caused by Odette. So yung mga structures nasira and also the vegetation, they are also damaged here. Okay? So we can see the changes before and after a particular event like typhoon, flood, or landslide. So we have also some flood extent mapping. So the method behind this, they also utilize before and after images. Okay? So to track the changes, they utilize before the particular typhoon and after the particular typhoon. They can calculate the changes in the either in the backscatter of the SAR data. Okay? Then we can determine the potential flooded event. Again, as mentioned, for damage detection using temporal analysis, we can also detect the changes before and after some particular, for example, earthquake. This is another example. So, ayun, bilis lang siya. But this one, itong mga giging brown, those are actually flooded areas sa isang agricultural area sa Maguindanao. Ito naman, kindly focus your eyes here. So this is detecting changes using remote sensing also. Here. So that's around 2023, 2021. 2021 muna, 2022 wala pa, no? Then late 2022, we can see the reclaimed area here in Manila Bay. Okay? So using remote sensing, especially through satellite data, we can track changes over time. So also, we can also use applications like other derivatives. Hindi lang siya yung nakita lang sa satellite. We can also calculate indices. For example, indices to show yung mga land surface temperature, for example, from Landsat. So this is one of our studies in Mandaue City. We generated land surface temperature maps for Mandaue from 2013 to 2019, and we can track the changes over time, no, using satellite data here. So this is also, we correlated it with barangay level built-up maps. Yung density ng mga buildings. So habang tumatagal, tumadami yung buildings, nagiging more dense yung buildings, at tumataas yung temperature. So yun yung summary lang ng study. So in summary, we can use satellite data to track changes over time. Hindi lang siya monthly, we can do it annually or yearly, or even decade level analysis. Ayan. So I think development of particular structure here in an area in Palawan, using planet data. So may tatayo dito na parang commercial or tourist infrastructure here. Yun. Again, so another example of detecting changes through time. Okay? Meanwhile, ito naman yung sample, another example from our friends from PILSA. This is the oil spill, tracking the oil spill that happened in Oriental Mindoro. I think last year. 2023 pala, yan. Yung ating oil spill. So they have a specific methodology to track the oil spill and the affected area. Okay? Lastly, we can save time and resources. For example, you want to do a field survey of mangroves. Tama? So ano yung method natin? If you want to do field surveys, you can visit a lot of plots. Okay? You can plot 1, plot 2, 10 kilometers per plots, etc. But if you have idea on how to map mangroves, for example, using satellite data, we can save time and resources. Of course, we need some field work to validate the space-based output, pero representative na lang siya. Okay? Hindi mo kailangan i-validate lahat. Okay? So parang ano na lang siya, strategic sampling na lang. So this is an example of our field work while I'm in UP. So we flown a drone in Calawit Island to map the damaged mangrove areas here. So initially, we developed the process or the maps using satellite data. So this is just a validation. So just a strategic validation of the outputs that we derive from satellite data set. So ito yung example ng parang drone snap of the damaged areas here. And we created a satellite-based maps covering this exact area. And last slide, of course, for the disaster risk reduction and land use planning, then make informed decisions and smart policies. Ayun, double pala. Okay? So review na lang tayo before we proceed with some interactive break. Ayun, kasi may prizes tayo for this interactive break. So, ayun, i-display namin yung mga prizes later. Pero, ayun, habang present ito, kindly pa-ready na po yung mga interactive break natin. Okay? So, for Earth observation, ito yung broader concept, no? So, it includes remote sensing, field service, etc. So, ito yung method ng pag-observe ng Earth from above. Yung remote sensing is a subset of Earth observation, refers specifically to collecting data without direct contact or remote sensing or getting information remotely through sensors. So this is an example quiz. Short lang naman. Okay? So ibigay nyo yung question sa sagot. Okay? For example, Sentinel-2. Ang sagot ay either spatial, temporal, and spectral. Okay? Kapag ang sagot ay every 5 days, anong resolution? Very good naman tayo. Parang pati na price. Temporal, okay? Next, 13 multispectral bands. Spectral, okay? From the clue spectrum, spectral. Lastly, 10 meters. Spatial. So, ready na for the interactive break, no? So, ito naman, we have 2 types of satellite based on the source, no? We have active and passive. Letter A, depend on natural energy, usually sunlight. Passive. Tama. Generate and transmit their own energy. Active. Another one, beautiful image in Central Visayas, but look, there are some clouds in the image. So, pag may clouds, ano siya? Optical. Ayan, very good naman tayo dyan. Palakpakan naman natin yung ating participation. Ayan, very good. So, I think we'll now proceed with a short interactive break.